Hey, so we are going to get into simple interest. Simple interest. I believe the finances of the home, math of finances, whatever you call it, is very important. So let's get into it. What we're going to cover in this particular lesson is just simple interest basics, the maturity value, or what you would see sometimes called the future value, present value, some common things to look out for, and then some key takeaways. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get started. So these are just some terms that you need to know. If you need to pause the video so that you can see them, I'll just go through them real quick. Simple interest, that's just normally when a loan is less than a year or more. Typically what you'll see is banks or financial institutions or whatever will use simple interest, and we'll kind of go through it. Interest is the fee that you pay to borrow someone else's money. Now, I'm saying borrow someone else's money, but interest is also what you earn when you have like a savings account or a deposit account. Okay, so it works both ways. The principal is the money that you start with. The rate is the interest rate that you are charged, and then the time is just the time period that the financial product, whatever you purchase, how long it lasts. So again, if you need to really see these, just pause the video. So how to calculate simple interest is very simple. There's a formula. So you have simple interest, which is the I. It's normally capital I when you see it. You take the present value times the rate times the time. Okay. And that gives you the simple interest in dollar amount. Okay. Very, very, very easy. Nothing big with that. So I equals PV times R times T. And I wrote it like that, but normally you'll see it written out. If I were to rewrite it, sometimes you'll see it as PVRT. Just, in math, when it's all together, it's still multiplication, okay? So let's do a quick example. It says, find the simple interest earned on $2,000 invested at 8.5% for 10 months. So if I write out the pieces, I have PV is 2,000, right? And then my rate. Normally with the rate, people often forget to convert to a decimal, so I try to do that right up front. Remember, to take a percentage and convert to a decimal, all you have to do is divide by 100, okay? And so you should get 0.085, and then our time, they said, was 10 months. Now, when you're working with time, you want to make sure that you represent your time in years. So there's 12 months in a year. So when I write this, I'm going to write it as 10 out of 12 when I get it into the actual formula. So we already have our formula, right? So now you just plug and chug. So that's going to be 2,000, right? Times 0.085 times 10 out of 12. And I'm writing it sideways. I apologize. And then y'all know me, I'm going to show all the steps. When you put 10 out of 12 in your calculator, you get this long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there were 7 of them. When you're doing these math of finance problems, it's really easy to round because you don't want to write all the numbers, but I highly recommend don't round to the very end. So if you're using your calculator, just keep all the digits in your calculator and then round at the very, very end. So when you put this in your calculator, you should get that. Now that I'm ready to enter my final answer, now I'm going to round. Okay, so this is the amount of interest you would pay on the loan, okay? This is the amount of interest. Okay, easy, right? Yep. I thought you'd say that. So yeah, you just plug and chug and don't round to the very end. Okay, let's try this one. Find the simple interest earned on $3,500 invested at 10.5% for 1.5 years. So same thing. Now, depending on what class you're taking, you probably want to get in the habit of writing the formula just so you don't forget. So our PV, our present value is 3,500. Our interest rate is 10.5%, but remember, take 10.5 divided by 100, okay, so that you know what it should be. And our time was 1.5 years. Well, when you write that, you can just write that as 1.5. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I'm trying not to sneeze. Okay, so let's plug this into our formula. So that's 3,500, right? 0.105, and then 1.5. So far, so good. Put all that in your calculator, and you should get 551.25. 551.25. Yep, good. Okay, now you try it. Now, pause the video, try this out, and let me know what you come up with. Okay? I'm going to keep going because I'm not going to pause the video. So, on the now you try it. Matter of fact, let me put that as green. So this is now you try it. I'm assuming you paused the video and then you tried it. Okay, so let's see what you come up with. Your PV should have been, what, 4,000, right? Your rate, 3%. You took that and you divided it by 100 and you got 0.03, right? And then your time you said was 9 months and you put that as 9 out of 12, right? That's what I'm guessing that's what you get. So let's see. 4,000 times 0.03 times 9 out of 12. Yep, that's what you should have had. So you should have had I equals 4,000, 0.03, 9 out of 12. And when you put that whole thing in your calculator, you should have ended up with $90. So that's not bad. You only paid $90 to get $4,000 for at 3% interest. It's not bad. Not too expensive. Okay, makes sense? So that's simple interest. How to find it? Very, very straightforward. So when you talk about the maturity value, that means, okay, like let's say you're making deposits to a bank account. Like the example says, you're saving for a car. Sometimes you want to know, well, how much money am I going to have at the end of 10 years if I'm saving $50 a month at this interest rate? How much am I going to have at the end of 10 months? Because you want to know, okay, what's my progress, right? Well, that's called the maturity value or the future value. So here's the formula for that. You just take the future value is equal to the present value plus I. We know that I is PVRT, right? So if you do a little algebra, you end up with PV plus PVRT. And then if you factor out this PV and factor out this PV, you end up with the future value equals the present value times this quantity 1 plus RT. Okay, so that's your future value, the future value formula. Okay, so your future value is equal to your present value times 1 plus RT. Okay, so that's how you would find the future value, maturity value. That's what you want to memorize. And again, depending on your class, you might have to write this down. I recommend always writing down the formula till it sticks. And then after you get it, then keep it moving. Okay, so let's do an example. So this says find the future value. Sorry, that's kind of small in it. There we go. I don't want it to take over the paper, but that's okay. Find the future value and the amount of interest earned for a savings account with an initial deposit of $2,500 at 4.5% interest for 10 years. So you want to find the future value and you want to find the amount of interest that was earned. So we're still talking about simple interest, okay? So let's get our pieces. That's 2,500, right? Yeah. Our rate, 4.5%. So I'm going to take 4.5 and divide it by 100. That's going to give me 0.045. And my time, they said 10 years. Okay, good. It's already in years, so we don't have to convert it. So now let's just plug and chug. So I have 2,500, right? Times 1 plus 0.045 times 10. Y'all know me, I'm going to show you all the steps. that becomes, oh, sorry. When you do this first, okay? Do that first. That becomes 0.45. So 1 plus that, 145. Sorry. And then when you put that in your calculator, you should get $3,625. That's the future value. That means that's what you're going to end up at the end of 10 years. Well, how much interest did you earn? Well, think about it. I started with $2,500. I ended up with $3,625, right? So to find the amount of interest earned, you can go back and do the I equals PVRT. You can do that. That makes sense because that's what we learned. But if you think about it, if this is if I started with $2,500 and I ended up with $3,625, you can just subtract the two. So that's what we do when we use the interest formula. But if you subtract them, you get the same thing. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. What I started with, what did I end it with, and whatever was that money, that's how much you paid the bank in interest. So this one was a little more costly. Now you see you're paying more, which is fine because it's over a 10-year period. So that kind of makes sense. So when you're looking at these questions, just think financially, does that make sense? And yeah, over 10 years, this makes sense. Okay. So now you try it. Pause the video. Try this one. You know, I'm going to keep going. Okay. You have $1,000 that you wish to deposit into a savings account that pays simple interest 5% annually for 3 years. Find the maturity value and then find the amount of interest paid. Remember, your future value is equal to your present value times 1 plus RT. That's for your simple. Remember, we're still talking about central interest. And then there's your simple interest formula. So your present value looks like 1,000, right? Your rate, 5%, and your time is 3 years. Don't forget to take your percent divided by 100, 0.05, okay? And then plug and chug, right? So we're going to take this. We have 1,000. Oh, look at me. I'm doing the wrong formula. That's why I say write the formula, right? So 1,001 plus 0.05 times 3. Remember, do this part first, okay? And then add it to the 1. Okay, so do that in order. You should get, looking at my notes, this should be 0.15, okay? Plus 1, 1.15. And when you multiply that, you get 1,150. Let me put my dollar. Okay, so that's your future value. And then to find the amount of interest paid, remember, what did you start with? What did you end up with? So 1,150. And then what did I start with? I used the interest formula, but it's easier. What did I start with minus what I ended up with? 150 bucks. Okay? Easy peasy. Easy peasy. All right. Present value. So we're still talking about simple interest. Now, with present value, that just means, like, let's say you know what you're going to end up with, or like the car is $50,000. So I know at the very end I want to save $50,000. What do I need to invest what do I need to deposit each month to get to that $50,000? Okay, so now we're talking about what do we need to deposit. So sometimes you want to know, what do I need to start with to get what I need to end up with? And you say, well, why do you care? Well, it depends on how much money you have to save, right? You might not have that much. So that's called your principal or your present value. What do you start with? And so if you take that future value formula and you just solve for PV, do a little algebra, you get that the present value is present value is equal to the future value divided by 1 plus R times T. Okay, so now you're just doing the division. That tells you what you have to start with. Okay, let's look at an example. So here we're talking about the present value. So our present value is equal to our future value divided by 1 plus RT. Okay? So that's what it would look like. I'm sorry, my R kind of looks like a V. So it says find the present value amount and the interest earned for $6,050 at 4.2% for 5 years. So that $6,050, that's what you're going to have at the end of 5 years, and the interest rate is 4.2%. So our future value, $6,050, right? Our rate, 4.2%. But remember, take 4.2 divided by 100. You should get 0.042. And our time is 5 years. Good. So it's already in years. So let's plug and chug. Okay, so my present value is going to be equal to 6,050 divided by 1 plus 0.042 times 5. Okay. Remember, do this first, then add the 1. Okay. Do that first and then add the 1. You should get 6,050 divided by 1 plus, this becomes 0.21. When you add 1.21. So then put that in your calculator and you should end up with $5,000. So it looks like you need to deposit $5,000 at the beginning of the 5-year period, and then you'll end up with $6,050. Again, the amount of interest earned, this is what you ended up with. This is what you need to start with. So that's the amount of interest earned. Okay, real easy. Plug and chug. You just have to know the formula, okay? And to get used to knowing the formula, write them down, and it'll stick. Promise, okay? So hopefully this is what you got. Okay, now you try it. Ooh, I gave you a little hint on this one though, okay? So don't just like, oh my God, 6 months. Remember, it needs to be a year. When you're working with time, just make sure your time is in the form of a year and you'll be okay. Okay, so our present value is equal to our future value divided by 1 plus RT. Our future value is 30,405. Now, you know you're supposed to pause it and try it yourself, right? But that's okay. We'll keep going. 2.7%. Remember, take 2.7 divided by 100. You should get 0.027. And our time, they said it was 6 months. But you know that's really a half of year, right? So if it's a half a year, you can put 1.5. So that's what I'm saying. Don't let those little things throw you off. Just convert it to a year, okay? So now let's plug and chug. 30,405 divided by, I hate that I didn't use different colors. I'm sorry. I'll get better at that. I like to use different colors so that it stands out. Sorry. Not 1.5. This should be 0.5. Or you can keep it as 1/2. Depends on how you enter it in your calculator. Remember, do this first because you're following PEMDAS, and then add the 1. Okay? Do that first and then add the 1. You should get 1 plus 0.0135. And then when you add the 1, and then when you divide that, you should get $30,000. Okay, $30,000. And now the amount of interest earned is going to be what? Yeah, 405. 30,405 minus 30,000, you get 405. Okay, good job. Easy peasy, right? I told you I was easy. So just some common things to look out for. Don't forget, convert your percent to a decimal before you plug it in that formula. Don't plug it in there as a percent. Make sure you convert it to a decimal first. Even if you're using your calculator, don't forget, convert it to a decimal. If you're using months, turn it into years. If it's 6 months, 6 out of 12. If it's 9 months, 9 out of 12. If it's 2 months, 2 out of 12. Convert it to years. Your percent and time I put not equal to your payment periods. Those have to match. You'll see that later. Like right now, everything match. You had your annual rate and your annual time period. As long as the rate and the time period match annual. When we get into compound interest, you'll see what I'm talking about. So always double check that. Keep at least 8 decimal places. You won't always have 8, but just keep as many as you can so that you don't round too soon and then round to the final answer. Trust me, depending on what software you're working in, doing your homework, you might end up with some errors. You're like, why is it wrong? You could have rounded too soon. You're using a calculator, so keep all the decimal places till you get to the very end. Okay, all of them. Just these are the key takeaways. These are the formulas. Again, I highly recommend writing down the formula every single time because you're going to get to the point you're going to be like, what formula do I use? Have your formula sheet. Hopefully your instructor lets you use your formula sheet. I let my students, you have a formula sheet because it's a lot of formulas to memorize. Have your formula sheet, have them written down. Just remember on this interest earned is not necessarily formula. Just what did you start with? What did you end up with? That's how much interest, and then express your rate as a decimal, express your time in years, okay? I think that's it. All right, thanks, y'all. Right? Oh, yeah, I want to start ending with these. So you should be able to complete your assignment with success. Remember, some questions are normally easier or harder. Follow the steps that we covered in this video. Write it down so you can see it. I did it in my head. Okay, well, write it down so you can see it anyway. Keep your calculator handy. And then remember, at any point of my videos, you can comment, leave your question. If you need to see further examples, let me know. I am happy to help. Okay, now it's bye. All right, talk to y'all later. Bye.